everyone, it's Julianne here for Trinity Stamps and welcome back. Today I'm going to be showing you how I created this totally sweet and candy-filled scene card using all of the sweet goodies that I could find in my craft room. For my card today, I am going to be using some of my favorite stamp sets that Trinity Stamps offers, and that includes the Dirty Bunny, the Sweet Scenty Mini stamp set, as well as those coordinating dies, and the Sweet Surprise stamp set. So let's get started. I'm going to be starting out my card today by first creating my scene. I'm going to be deciding on the placement of each one of my stamp sets, and once I have a good idea of where I want everything to go, then I'm actually going to start working on my stamping. For any type of scene cards, you definitely want to make sure that you have decided on the placement of your images. That way you know which images you need to stamp first. For my card today, I knew that I wanted to have my bunny in front of my scene, so I am going to be stamping that image first. Then I will mask him off and start stamping the cupcakes that'll be behind him. I honestly couldn't decide what I wanted to create for my post this week. Whenever I get in a little bit of a crafty funk, I go back to what I do best, which is creating scene cards. I find it best that whenever I am in a funk that I pull out my favorite stamp sets, which is definitely that cute little bunny, and I create a card around it. Once I had the bunny and the two cupcakes all stamped out, I really thought as though my card was still needing something, especially on the right-hand side. So I'm going to line my card panel back up in my MISTI, and I'm going to continue stamping to create more of a scene. And to do this, I'm going to be bringing in two additional stamp sets, the Candy Jar stamp set, as well as the Sweeter Than stamp set. Now again, before I actually do any stamping, I'm going to be deciding on the placement of all of my images, and which ones that I want to look as though they are in the front versus the ones I want to look as though they are in the back. And once I have that all figured out, then I will actually start my stamping. Now that I have all of my stamping done, the next step is actually my favorite part when it comes to creating scene cards, which is where I get to peel back all of my mask in order to reveal the scene that I've created. Next, I'm going to start working on my Copic coloring, and since I did want to focus the video on how I created my scene, I am going to be speeding up my coloring process quite a lot, as well as doing some jumping around in order to save some time in this video. Like always, I will make sure to have all of my marker caps off to the side so that you can follow along with what colors I'm using if you are interested, and I'll be right back. Next, I need to create the shadows under each one of my images to make it look as though they are actually sitting on a surface and not just floating on the top of my card. To accomplish that, I'm going to be coming in with some toner grays. I'm going to be starting out with my darkest shade of T5, adding that first layer of shading under each of my images. And then I'm going to be going over that with T4, extending those shadows out, followed by T3, and then finally coming in with my lightest shade of T2 in order to blend everything in together. Once I finish up coloring in that counter area, I'm then going to start working on my sentiment for my card. I love the sentiment that's included in the Sweet Surprise stamp set, the one that reads, "You're always a sweet surprise." But I wanted to replace the sweet that's from the sentiment with the sentiment die cut that's a part of the Sweet Senti Mini coordinating die set. So what I'm going to do once I decide on the placement of my sentiment, I'm just going to line my card panel back up in my MISTI, and then I'm going to stamp the first part of my sentiment, the part that reads, "You're always a," making sure to mask off the rest of my sentiment while I'm stamping. Once I have that first part of my sentiment all stamped out, I'm then going to reposition my stamp onto my card panel, and I'm just going to stamp the word "surprise" from that same sentiment. And again, when I'm doing my stamping, I'm going to make sure that I mask off the rest of my sentiment. That way, at this point, my card is going to read, "You're always a surprise." But once I add in the sweet die cut in the center of it, it will read again, "You're always a sweet surprise." Next, I'm going to start finishing up my card by adhering everything together, as well as adding in those last final touches. I'm going to start out by first adhering my background panel to my card base that I did trim and score down out of some teal colored cardstock that I thought would match my teal cupcake perfectly. And I am going to be adhering my background panel down using some liquid adhesive. Next, I'm going to finish off my sentiment by adhering my sweet die cut sentiment. And I really wanted that part of my sentiment to pop off from my card. So for that, when I used the sweet die and I ran that through my die cutting machine, I did that from some yellow colored cardstock. And I'm also going to be adhering that sentiment down using some more adhesive. Finally, to finish off my super sweet card, I am going to be adding some glossy accents to each of those candy pieces that I colored in earlier. I thought adding this on top of each of them would be the perfect final touch for my card and would make them really look like candy. So once I finish up those last few candy pieces, that's going to complete my card for today. I just love how this card came out, and I hope that you do too, and it really makes me want some cupcakes and candy right about now. I want to thank you all so much for stopping by and spending some time with me. If you liked this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, as well as subscribe for even more card making ideas. If you are interested in any of the supplies I used today, they will all be listed and linked down below in the description box. And as always, I hope you have a wonderful day and happy crafting!